Sahanavavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsa Chanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. Hari Om Umaji. I just started.
Okay.
So, all right. We are on verse 36 today. And we are at a juncture where Arjun asked question. He had a doubt about this whole yoga of meditation that Krishna Bhagavan was talking about. He said maybe short-term benefit, but I don't think I can do it long-term because mind is restless. And then Krishna Bhagavan agreed with him. He says, yes, mind is restless, but with abhyas and vairagya, it can be restrained. And then Krishna Bhagavan was not satisfied with giving him this, only that, the two things. So there's another verse that he talked about that he's going to talk about that we are going to do. So that's where we are. Verse 36. So it's supportive of the verse 35. And Krishna Bhagavan is going to clarify it further, that for whom it is easy, whom it is not. So here is verse 36. I'm going to chant. Asanyatatmana yogaha dushpapa iti me matihi vashyatmana tu yatata shakyo vaptum upayataha. Asanyat atmanaha, by a man of uncontrolled self. जिस मनुष्य के पास क्या माइंड में कंट्रोल नहीं हो जिसका. Yoga is yoga. Dushpapa, hard to attain. It's very difficult for him. It's like very logical, obviously. Iti, thus. Me, my, mati, opinion. So मेरा opinion, Krishna Bhagavan का opinion ये है. Vashyat mana, by the self-controlled one. Tu is but, yatata, by the striving one. Yati, there is another word, जो strive कर रहा हो, यानी कि seeker, who is making effort. That's what it means. कि खाली जो बैठ के ड्रीम करेगा उसको नहीं मिलने वाला है. You have to do effort. Shakya is possible. Avaptuma, to obtain. Upayataha, by proper means. ये word हिंदी में भी है ना, उसका उपाय क्या है. So he's saying proper उपाय जो करता है उसको मिलेगा. So what is he saying over here? So it's very simple what he's saying, but Swamiji's, Chinmayananji's commentary is very, very good one because he brings out some very important points. So basically he's saying over here is that yes, it is, he already said that it's difficult, I know, but the one who has a control over his mind. And how do you get control over your mind? Through abhyas and vairagya, those two things. And they both complement each other, we saw. And we also learned that vairagya is attained through knowledge. So the more we study Bhagavad Gita, more knowledge we get, we will feel the vairagya. And vairagya doesn't mean, I give up the world and just think that it's bad and all. Nothing like that. But knowing fully well, it is an impermanent thing. I still indulge with it. But knowing it fully in my heart. Something like that. And abhyas is through willpower, So we should have a willpower to do the abhyas. That's what we have to develop. And both of them have a different thing. So you cannot say vairagya is a willpower. Vairagya is not willpower. Vairagya is more, I know that this world is impermanent. From that vairagya comes. And so what he was saying is that practice and these two things are important, and just merely by willpower also you cannot get it, because it's something like, I will not drink coffee, like Dr. Prabhakar was saying, but that if you suppress it, then you will start again. But if knowledge, you do it. So we are just revising few of the things. So basically vairagya is a result of knowledge and abhyas is practice. And you need both to control the mind. And so obviously it is, even if Krishna Bhagwan didn't tell this, we know that, but he's just asserting it, that if you don't have a control over your mind, you're not going to be able to meditate. It's as simple as that. So that's where Krishna Bhagwan agreed with him. But then he says in the second line that of this verse that one who has developed control over the mind through various techniques that he has mentioned, of abhyas and vairagya, so then he will get it. And what Dillivale Swami was talking about is that control of the mind is not like, fighting with the mind or destroying the mind, nothing like that. But by all those practices, mind is helped. And he's saying that in the end, mind will tell you thank you. Because we always talked about, hey, what is freedom? So there is a complete opposite definition of freedom that we think originally. Is it me? Freedom is do whatever you want. And what Chinmayananji says is exactly opposite, that freedom means not to do what you feel like doing is freedom. Because what that means, it sounds like a little confusing. All it means is that you should have control over your mind. The mind should be your slave. You should not be the slave of the mind. So if the mind wants something, and if your buddhi thinks it's not the right thing, buddhi should be able to have a upper hand and say, hey, no, shut up, and you're not going to get it. Something like that, So that's what it is. So whoever has this will be able to get to the state of samadhi. And then how? Through various upay. And upay, Swamiji, Chinmayananji is going to give a very, very good explanation of what that means. Means striving correctly. Because somebody can say, oh, I did so much, I'm still not getting it. Hey, are you doing the right things? Because you could be doing a lot of work, but if it's not the right upay, then it will again not do it. Or not, not with understanding and all that. So this is what he was talking about. And then the one more thing that we have to remember is that when he was talking about that abhyas, all the practices are, of course, abhyas. And final thing is placing your mind into the self and holding it there. Shifting your attention to self. That is a final culmination of all the practices that we do. So, just in a nutshell, having control of the mind is the absolute first step in this. And, this particular thing, after we finish this verse, then first doubt of Arjuna is over, then he's going to have a few other doubts. And all of us have those doubts, and then we will be dealing with that. So, any question about this? Question or comment? Anybody wants to add anything? Okay, if not, then we can read it.
I really like what you said about the freedom is not doing the stuff I feel like doing.
Yes.
That's free. Not like what I want to do, I could do it.
Right. Because if you let go, just do whatever, then soon everything gets out of control. So, like India, whenever we were like, I remember when I was in early classes, I don't remember 3rd, 4th grade, like that, there was a poem, और उसमें वो poem था बड़ा कौन है, बड़ा कौन है करके एक poem थी जिसमें आंसर किया था कि कौन बड़ा है. Is it someone who has a lot of money? Is it someone who has a lot of power? End में उसका था poetry में जिसने मन को control कर लिया वो सबसे बड़ा है. I still remember that poem. वो टाइम इतना समझ में शायद नहीं आया, पर अभी समझ में आ रहा है कि क्यों वो लेखक ने क्यों लिखा हुआ ऐसा. So that's what it is. The whole thing is about. Yeah. Who would like to read? Any volunteers? Yeah, Neeluji. Neeluji, you have to unmute. Sorry.
I'm sorry.
Okay. Huh.
Yoga, I think, is hard to be attained by one of uncontrolled self, but the self-controlled striving can obtain it by proper means. In the previous stanza, extreme emphasis was placed on practice. But what constitutes the spiritual practice, abhyasa, was not indicated even indirectly in that verse. A scientific book that leaves missing links either in its arguments or in its logic is no textbook at all. In the stanza under review, Krishna is giving a direct clue to what he means by the term practice abhyasa.
So he's just saying that in the previous years कृष्ण भगवान ने सिर्फ इतना बोला कि अभ्यास और वैराग्य से होता है पर समझाया नहीं कि अभ्यास क्या होता है. And he's saying that Swamiji considers this Geeta as a scientific book. It's art of man making with the scientific things in it. So he's just saying he's going to explain now what is abhyasam.
Though the Lord's statement expresses quite an obvious truth, even a divine master like Krishna dare not declare in Hinduism any statement of his own with the authority of a spiritual text.
Scriptural text means जो शास्त्र में लिखा है. Yeah. Shastra Praman is the highest. That's what he's trying to say. That even Krishna Bhagwan says, hey, the wise people are saying that, the Shastras are saying that. And sometimes when he gives his opinion, he declares it. This is my opinion.
At best, any interpreter of religion can only declare his opinion. That's what you just said.
Yeah.
All intelligent men and serious students of the scriptures have the right to entertain their own individual opinions, conclusions, and convictions based upon logic and personal experiences. But these opinions can change, and they do keep on changing from time to time, inasmuch as they depend entirely upon the conditions of the times and the types of minds that come to evaluate and declare these opinions. In Sanskrit, the term matam means opinion. The conclusions or opinions of Christ, Muhammad, Krishna, Buddha, and others become religious, seemingly different from one another. But all of them have the same fundamental truths, which constitute what they term in Sanskrit as dharma.
See how much he is explaining so beautifully that because all these religion who fight with each other, और ये हम लोग को इंडिया में भी हमारे दिमाग में घुसाया हुआ है कि मुस्लिम और हिंदू का एकदम अलग है. We are so far apart. Here Swamiji is saying that he included Muhammad also. Fundamentally, it's the same truth they are talking about. But the way they express is different, and that depends on the time in the history, why they came and what they came. So you cannot just start criticizing because you were not there when Muhammad came and what the problems were of that time. See what I'm saying? Same way when Buddha came, why some people say, hey, why he didn't talk about God? Because that was a demand of that time. So we have to, this paragraph explains it, that the fundamental truth is the same, but each person have their own experience, time frame and all that, and how they express may seem different. And, we have to respect everybody's opinion, and people can interpret it different way, and that freedom has been given, that's what it is. And then the other thing that I was going to say, which constitutes what the term in Sanskrit called dharma. So when we say Hindu dharma, Bauddha dharma, where the word dharma is coming, it's coming from that fundamental truth is dharma. Because that is not going to change, right? It's like, hey, who is a good man and who is a bad man? That definition is the same in all the religion. Anybody who lies, cheats, all that is considered bad man. Anybody who is a compassion, kind, helps others is good man. That's not going to change in any religion because that is a dharma. So the word dharma is coming from the fundamental truth and not this superficial meaning of dharma that people talk about, So see how much we learn from the Mahatma's commentaries.
As his personal opinion, the divine singer of the Geeta, he declares here that the uncontrolled and therefore the totally dissipated person cannot bring into the pursuit of religion the necessary amount of dynamic vigor and vitality to sustain himself till he reaches a peak of his self rediscovery. It is therefore said, yoga is hard to be attained by one of uncontrolled self.
So this you don't need some kind of rocket science to know this, right? A person who does have no control over his mind, forget about the spiritual stuff. He's not going to be able to do any worldly stuff either. The person who cannot get up or get dressed or show up to work, whatever, like discipline is a very important part. And here he's saying that you need a necessary amount of dynamic vigor, vitality, and all that. So that an uncontrolled person is not going to be able to do it. So it's, worldly example could be, yes, I want to climb that mountain, but I'm not going to do my daily exercise to become fit. And fit that person is going to go climb the mountain and within 5 minutes or half ne lagega or he say, I can't do it. But the person who has done the practice will be able to do it, So.
An individual who barters himself away to slave among the sense objects according to the mad dictates of his flesh, or he who dances to the death tune sung by his voluptuous mind, or he who roams about endlessly to fulfill the tyrannical demands of a drunken intellect, such a one has neither peace of mind nor the strength of sustained aspiration to goad him on towards the temple of truth within himself.
So he used very, very poetic language. So he talked about all the three instruments. He talked about the body, mind, and intellect. So some people say they might stop at body and mind and say, okay, body, I crave this, I crave that, and keep fulfilling the demands of the body. It will be a disaster, we already know. And the mind, mind is a lower mind he's talking about, this feels very good, I want to do this, whatever. So then again, there will be problem. But he's also talking about a drunken intellect. Because some people, it's like my way or the highway. And those people also can't do it. You got to be a little flexible. And, so just when you get tyrannical orders of the drunken intellect, all these dictators and all that, or very rigid people, they're always frustrated, and people make the people around them frustrated, with this kind of tyranny. So he's just talking about it, how we have to be balanced and soft if you want to move ahead, You can't be, and he's going to talk about it, that when we talk about, that not to give in to the demands of the body, mind, and intellect, then some people go the other way. Oh my God, I got to control this, or bhooke rahenge, or, ye chhod diya, wo chhod diya, sugar and salt bhi chhod diya. Why? Who's telling you? Krishna Bhagavan didn't say to do that. He's just telling you not to overdo anything. Because he already had those verses that stay in the balance. So it's very, very important that not to swing either way. And that's what Geeta teaches us, very, very important thing. We'll see, it will come forward again. Mm-hmm.
So long as the sense organs are not properly controlled, the agitations of the mind cannot be pacified. An agitated mind is no instrument, either for listening or for reflection or for meditation. And without these three, the veiling power cannot be rolled up. The allegations.
It's actually the agitations.
The agitations.
Yeah.
Vikshepa.
Yeah, vikshepa. Yeah, go ahead.
Vikshepa and veiling, avarana, are caused by activity, rajas, and inactivity, tamas. We have already found that without controlling these two temperaments, the unactivity, sattva, cannot come to predominate in the seeker.
So there are a lot of technical words here, and we have gone through it earlier, but there are a lot of new people, so I'll try my best to explain this. So firstly, he said that if the mind is agitated, we cannot sit quietly. That we know, right? So how does the mind become agitated? So if whoever has learned about the three gunas, we have tamas, rajas, and sattva. So what Krishna Bhagwan has told Arjun, तुम सत्व में रहना सीखो. Sattva is the one which is like, very calm, quiet. All those things come under sattva, luminous, transparent, knowledge, all those things. We're going to learn much more in detail when we come to that chapter, but just to give an idea. And what tamas is like indolence, laziness, I don't want to do it, I don't care. All this comes, sleepiness, laziness comes under tamas. And then rajas is activity. I want to do this, I want to do that, I'm trying to achieve a lot, and that brings in a lot of other negative things in there, greed and anger and frustration and all that in rajas. So everybody has all the three gunas. So all he's telling Krishna Bhagwan, see, we need tamas and rajas also in life. We cannot live without that, because for sleeping, when we fall asleep, we need tamas to come over. But there are some important part of tamas but there is other dark side of tamas that you don't want. Hey, it's a person who can't get up in the morning and do anything. And rajas also, we need activity, but usko na karma yoga ke roop mein karo, then it's a good activity. But if you do it just for selfish purpose, that rajas you use, then it becomes a problem. So what happens with tamas is, usko bolte hain avarna. Avarna means किसी को ढक देना, right? So अब हमारी जो knowledge है ना, उसको तमस ढक देता है. That means I don't even want to know. I don't care. That kind of thing. So if you don't even gonna care about and not know, then you will never get the knowledge, right? And the other one is vikshep, is when you are very agitated. It also, you will not kind of stay in that knowledge. Or let's look at it this way, in what context he's talking about. If you want to sit in meditation, and what did he say? What is the main thing we have to do? That we have to put our mind on the self. But अगर तुम्हारे दिमाग में संसार भरा हुआ है इतना ज़्यादा, you are not going to be able to. Your mind will constantly run. I mean, Krishna Bhagavan even gave a technique that, hey, if it runs, bring it back. But sometimes even that bringing back doesn't happen. Before you know it, is gone for 15 minutes. So basically he's saying that if the sense organs are not properly controlled, the agitations of mind cannot be controlled and pacified. So that's why he brought all these other things in it, the sattva, rajas, and tamas, and their relationship with it. So person who tries to strive to live in the sattvic life will be able to remove that avarna, means, that darkness over his mind, and will have less agitation, and that's why we'll be able to sit. And as far as humans are concerned, God has given only the humans that ability to change their these temperaments, to make the rajas and tamas less and make the sattva more by knowledge, by practice and all that. Animals, they are programmed completely. Whatever they do it by instinct, and the entire life they live like that. So they don't have any capacity to change this temperament. But with a little bit, if you go to the sea world and all that, they'll make these fishes jump and do this and all that. But unka basic nature फिर भी नहीं change हो सकता है. Humans can, from animalistic, he can become a great saint. That much, capacity has been given. So that's what he's trying to talk about in this paragraph.
It is natural in a discussion that we generally present our own arguments against a team of opposite arguments, so that the discriminative intellect of the listener may, by contrast, come easily to judge the acceptability and reasonableness of our own viewpoints. Krishna uses here this commonplace reasonableness technique of every drawing room when he is the second line, explains as a contrast how the self-controlled, striving hard by right means can obtain it. Self-control achieved through the process of total withdrawal of the sense organs from their respective objects is, no doubt, the beginning of the spiritual life.
So he's just telling you that पहले उन्होंने बोला कि a person who's uncontrolled, he cannot get this, but then second line में he's opposite उन्होंने बताया कि भाई जिसका control mind होता है and striving means doing the right upaya, proper means, he can get it. So this is just both sides he covered. He didn't leave anything touched. That's what he's saying. No stone unturned, like they say in English, that he did it both ways. And this is a technique that everybody uses. That's what he's just saying, that he covered everything.
Even in ordinary life, when we want to achieve something solid, a man of the world will have to live to a large extent in self-denial. The life of a candidate during the election time, that of a student before his examinations, or of an actor or a dancer before his first great reception, are all examples wherein we find that the individuals deny themselves all their idle preoccupations in their own anxiety to win their success in their respective chosen fields. If for material gains and flimsy, ephemeral glories, we have to deny ourselves in order to acquire and possess the desirable, how much more should we come to deny ourselves the joys of the world outside in order to win the glories of the eternal and the permanent, the infinite and the absolute bliss of the self?
So here, when he talking about self-denial, Swamiji is taking that self-denial to a different level here. One is, I have to stop my other activities so I can focus on one, right? That's what we usually think when we think of, but he's going a little deeper, that the bigger problem is this wool gathering that happens in our head. That when I'm focusing on some task, or if I want to get something in the world, meko milega ya nahi milega, I hope I get this result, did I do it correctly, regrets of the past, anxiety of the future. He's telling you to give that up. And the people who are very high achievers, if you ever talk to them, if some interview you hear about them, they are so passionate about what they do, what is they like to do, that they don't care about the result. कोई उनकी वाह-वाही करे नहीं करे, they will just do it, and they are not worried about that, hey, should I get this fixed result? He's just enjoying what he does. That's what Krishna Bhagwan is telling. That's the person who gets the highest thing. So when he's talking about a self-denial, he's talking more from our mind level. That we are, when we are focused on, that's why he always says, there are a couple of verses we may have forgotten, we did it in chapter 3. When we talk about karma yoga, what is actually karma yoga is giving up this future anxiety and regrets of the past and staying in the present. And this new age spirituality that is there, that present is supposed to be some very powerful thing, power of now. That Eckhart Tolle wrote the whole book and all that. That's what it means. That not having any anxieties like this, then you will get the success. So even in the meditation is the same thing. I think that it was Osho who said that meditation is when you don't want to change anything in the world, within your life or anybody else or in the world. You just sit there and say, everything is the way it's supposed to be, and your mind becomes quiet. Because what we want to do, I want to change this, change that. So he gave a very beautiful explanation of what exactly it means, to meditate, to be completely in the present. And that's why sometimes they say that these athletes, when they actually are performing, they are in meditation. Or some singer who loves to sing, and when he's actually singing, with that total attention, that is meditation, because of the same thing, exactly what he's talking about.
is not sufficient that the seeker seemingly denies himself all the sense objects. This seems to be the most general misunderstanding among almost all seekers in India today. In the name of religion or spiritual practice, many seekers, at least for some years, seem to live in self-denial and self-punishment, shamelessly insulting themselves and carelessly persecuting their own physical urges and even biological needs. This sort of devilish and suicidal self-condemning tyranny to oneself always ends in an outburst of satanic forces from within the very seeker.
So you can imagine, like people who do atrocious stuff in the name of religion, they will punish themselves and all that. And, those, Swamiji must have come across those kind of people, but how strongly he went against that, like basic needs are there of the body and mind, and also there is no harm in satisfying those. If you're hungry, go eat your food and then sit and meditate. Don't overeat, because then you will be sleepy. See what I'm saying? But if you're hungry and sitting in meditation, how you can meditate? Won't be able to. So it's a common sense he's talking about. And I think this ugly side of this we have seen a lot in India. Some of those sadhus do some weird stuff, and all that, and totally against. And there is a verse, I'm not sure if it has already come, when Krishna Bhagwan says that the person who tortures himself, he is actually hating the divinity within himself. Itna unhone bol diya ki that means we don't need to torture our body at all. So that's what he's bringing out there.
We do not find in such dull-witted practitioners any blossoming of their spiritual fragrance. What a beautiful sentence.
Yes, it's very poetic, yeah.
We do not find in such dull-witted practitioners any blossoming of their spiritual fragrance, but on the other hand, we see them metamorphed into monsters who are, at best, a scandal, even of the worst of civilizations known in history. Many of the modern educated men point out to such damaged instances and declare that religion only wrecks human life and that it can add no beauty to the personality. They can be considered as wise in their judgment only in an age when we start accepting that cooking is dangerous because a few cooks get their fingers burnt in the kitchen.
So all of us must have heard this, somebody or the other saying, all these religious people, they are so bad, and they are, sabhi ko jaise ek do koi gunde type ke apne aap ko sadhu bolne wale aa jate hain na, I don't know the names and all, sabhi log unhi ko point karenge. See, sare sadhu aise hi hote hain, so, and they're saying that you can't do that. And I think that in some other group that I am, that kind of talk was going on. Hey, look at this. I said, every profession has gundas in it and bad people. Even the most noble of some, teaching, or once in a while you hear on the news, some bad things they did, horrible things, or suppose some doctor. Doctor is supposed to be such a noble profession, and 99% may be good, but there are 1% or less who do bad stuff. They do cheating, they will cheat. We know that doesn't mean the whole profession is bad. That's all he's trying to say. Because sometimes, like this, like he's in a modern educated people will, main to dharam ko manti nahi hu. Because, it's all bad. Look at how they're fighting, they're killing each other and all. There may be a very small group of people who do that, So, very, very important to keep that proper balance and not just sway on one side and just give up the whole thing, He's cautioning against that. Because these people who do bad stuff, they give bad name to it, true, but we don't need to get swayed by them.
Lest the student of the Geeta should also fall a prey to such a misunderstood and misconceived spiritualism. Bhagwan indicates here that the self-control seeker can, by striving rightly, obtain it. Not going to a cinema and not visiting the playground are not in themselves assurances that the students will pass their examinations. This time wasted in such merrymaking must be properly utilized in intelligent study, which alone can vouchsafe for them a success in their examination. Here too, if a student appearing for an examination in mathematics were to read geography textbooks all night, he may not thereby assure for himself any glorious success. He must strive rightly in order that he may gain the true success.
I mean, nobody could say it more beautifully. So he's saying first half of it is that you don't deny yourself of certain things or you can focus, but you khali deny karke baith gaye aur uske baad kuch kiya nahi, because it, in the context of the 2 paragraphs that we did, that denial mein, and they forgot the goal. What they're supposed to do. And he gave such a beautiful example. Okay, not going to the playground, not going to the cinema because you want to pass the exam, but then you have a mathematics exam and you are studying geography all night, and then in the morning you fail the exam and then you complain to everybody. मैं तो पूरी रात जगा हुआ था, मैं तो ये कर रहा था, and that's what it's. Oh, I've been meditating for so long and nothing is happening. We got to go back and read what he's saying. What we are striving rightly. I mean, so logical. My God. So I think that it is like we have to self-reflect and say, if I'm trying to do it and I'm not being successful, that means I'm not striving right. That is no other way, because, it is, if you strive correctly, this is Krishna Bhagwan's promise, you're going to get it. So then the whole responsibility comes back to us. Shastras are not wrong, the saints are not wrong, and all these people are saying, but if I'm not progressing or getting, I have to do some adjustment because I'm not striving it correctly. It's something like another thing I wanted to bring out is, when our mind is very agitated, it is our own desire, anger, greed, frustration. That is what is in our mind. There's nothing more than that. So, you cannot say, somebody else made me angry or they are doing this. No, it's nothing to do with them. It is our own mind is like that. That's why. So whole responsibility comes to us only, striving correctly.
Similarly, when through self-control a seeker has conserved in himself energies which would otherwise have got dissipated in the gutters of sensuality, he must know how to direct these energies through the right channels, whereby he can get himself detached from his misconceived self-projections and ultimately realize for himself his own selfhood. Such an intelligent seeker can obtain it. Is the optimistic philosophy of this ever-smiling God of the Hindus, Lord Krishna.
So he's just telling you, and he's bringing her to the highest point now, that direct the energy through the right channels where he can get himself detached from his misconceived self-projection. And self-projection is, come back to that example of a snake and a rope. Rope is there, but I think it's a snake. So I see the world and I say, oh, this is the world. No, it is actually God only, but I'm not seeing God. All those things that we learned comes over here, that's the final thing he's taking it to the highest. That's what we have to strive at. And that person who is doing that will finally realize the selfhood. And then in the end, the intelligent seeker can obtain it. So when he talks about intelligence over here, he's not talking about the worldly intelligence. Somebody can be very intelligent, make a lot of money and blah, blah, blah. And then that's not the kind he's talking about. He's talking about spiritual intelligence who recognizes real and unreal and don't give too much importance to the unreal and focuses on the real, focuses on the self. That person will get it.
With these 2 verses, Krishna exhaustively answers the question raised by Arjun and what follows clearly indicates that the Pandavas' prince has been convinced by the Lord's reply.
So this is his answer in these two verses, most beautiful. And Swamiji's commentary was one of the best in this, right? How he explained the whole thing. And Swamiji also said that at least Arjuna is satisfied, yes, it can be done. Now he has some other doubts. And basically he's going to say, suppose somebody is striving very hard and then बीच में उसकी death हो गई. He didn't get the highest because that's what he wants. And बीच में kick the bucket, फिर उसका क्या होगा? Did everything go waste? And, like, जैसे पंजाबी में कहावत है ना, धोबी दा कुत्ता घरदा ना घाटदा. इतना सब डिनाई किया, प्लेजर ने वहां नहीं मिला और यहाँ पहुंचा नहीं और बीच में लटक गया and then gone. So what is it going to be? So that's question Khan is going to answer that. Okay. So we'll do that next time. But any question and comment? Anybody wants to add anything?
So this was very poetically said, but very logically and simplistically explained.
Yes. I think that is an absolute hallmark of Swami Chinmayananda, that he is like very, very practical, and he will explain it in such a way that you immediately say, yeah, I agree. There's no room left to even doubt anything. And he bringing all the issues that we faced over there about religion and this and that, everything you can see. And when you see Dhongi people, how bad we feel that they're giving such bad name, all those things he brought in there. But then we have to be smart and we have to go back to the source. Hey, what the Shastras are saying. Like when we were, like I got trained under Darshana Ben, and she would always say, if you have a doubt, go back to the source. That's why she focused a lot, how even Chinmayananji does this, or even Prabhupada has done that. That, verse by verse, exact meaning and what it's saying, and then explanation. So then you don't deviate from that. Because, sometimes I see that on the internet and all that, they will make some kind of long statement and say, Bhagwan ne aisa kaha Geeta mein. And bola bhi nahi hai Bhagwan ne exactly. Maybe they should point over there, ye mera mat hai, like he said. But if you want exact things about them, it should be what exactly he said in those 700 verses. It better be that. Don't make up some other story and say, Krishna Bhagwan said this in Geeta. I come across that a lot. So if you have any doubt, then go back to the source. Ask them, hey, which verse it is that he's saying it. Then go read the, Chinmayananji, Prabhupadaji's, any of Mahatma's explanation. Then you will get the right answer.
Umaji, this also emphasizes the necessity of a guru.
Absolutely. I think that to me, these kind of shastras, you cannot learn without a guru.
Right.
No matter what people say. Unless you are somebody like Ramana Maharishi. But that's like out of 7 billion people, there are only 1 or 2. So if you consider yourself that, then fine. You can. उन्होंने भी mountain को guru माना, He's not like without guru. He says that the Mount Arunachal is my guru. Because they were connected at the subtle level. So अपने traditions में तो guru का बहुत ज़्यादा महत्व है. Because अगर गीता तुम खुद पढ़ के देखो, if you just take the Krishna Bhagwan and just go by translation, 5% भी नहीं जाएगी अंदर.
And then this also goes back to where he is talking about drunken intellect. Somebody could be very learned, but he is so full of himself that he could totally misguide you.
Yes. And that is a huge danger in too much knowledge. Ahankar is like a shadow follows you. So, as we go in the verses, you will see that how much Krishna Bhagwan gives dambha, he call it. And there are different kinds of ahankar that we will analyze it. It's very, very interesting. One is, जो मुझे आता है उसका अहंकार है. और एक होता है कि जो मुझे नहीं आता है ना, वो भी मैं प्रोजेक्ट करती हूँ, मुझे आता है बहुत. Like, trying to be something I'm not. In this world, that happens too. So
मुझे जो पहले ऋषि होते थे बड़े, वो श्राप देते थे कि अगर तूने ऐसे नहीं करा तो तेरा ऐसे हो जाएगा. So that is very hard to understand. Why?
Okay, so I know a lot of people ask. I'm so glad you brought that up. It's very, very interesting, the analysis. So it is that you have to think it from a very highest level now. Because if you go to the Puranic stories, even Krishna Bhagwan got a shrap. Right?
Yeah.
All of them. And then he accepted it with a total grace. And when Gandhari, who gave him the shrap, after she gave the shrap, she felt horrible because she actually loved Krishna Bhagwan too. And she kept crying. And he said, don't worry, this was the destiny. Because there was, us shrap mein bhi kuch karmic cheez chupi hoti hai. That's one thing. And then these saints and sages who have the capability of giving the shrap, they are actually Trikaldarshi. They know what has happened, what is happening now, and what is going to happen in the future. Sometimes they give them a shrap to help them in their karmic thing.
Oh.
Okay? I'll give you a simple example that Arjun got a shrap. That, for 1 year, you will become a eunuch. You have to go, and you have to, why? Because Arjun was so powerful, he could never go in hiding. Actually, एक अप्सरा ने उसको श्राप दिया था. Because, she was trying to make moves on him and he said, no, I'm married, I don't want to. And then she got angry and gave him a shrap. And then, uska shrap kam karne ke liye bola, 1 saal tak you will have to be like, live like a hijra. So when he went into that hiding time, then he became Brihannala. He dressed as a woman and he taught dance to that Rajkumari because it say Arjun अगर अपने ओरिजिनल फॉर्म में होता ना तो वो लोग एक दिन में उसको ढूंढ के निकाल लेते because he's so full of valor. See what I'm saying, the shrap, how it works? And even all the stories, if you learn it from the Mahatma, they will tell you the hidden meaning behind it, why the shrap was given. Even Ramchandra ji, he had to get separated from his wife, right? So उनको श्राप मिला था. You'll have to face the separation when you come as a human being, because there's a whole story about Naraji, that he didn't let Naraji marry this woman that he fell in love with, and Naraji got angry and all. But that whole thing was also necessary because he had to kill Ravan, and Ravan had to do bad stuff. You cannot kill a person until he's done bad stuff. So there are so many things. So when you see it from the higher perspective, then only we understand that shrap में भी कुछ अच्छा छुपा होता है. And other people get very angry, क्यों दिया श्राप and all that. But the person, if he is a jnani and he's getting the shrap, he's not going to get upset. He will look at it as his karmic thing, that I have to fulfill it. That's it.
I have a question. Umaji, in the paragraph of agitations and wailing, and it was the 3 words were mentioned: activity, inactivity. Activity is Rajas. I agree. I understand it. Inactivity is tamas. I agree with it. I always get confused with inactivity.
Okay.
Although it is sattva.
Yeah.
I know it is a sattva guna, but what is the difference between inactivity and inactivity?
Inactivity is sattvic, inactivity is tamasic. Tamasic में मेरे को कुछ करना नहीं है बस. लेकिन जो सत्व में करता है ना, वो टायर्ड नहीं होता है, वो बहुत काम कर सकता है. Okay, that's one. I'm trying to give different examples so you know what I'm talking about. Then, sometimes this is what happens. Suppose a scientist or somebody very intellectual, highly intellectual, he may be just sitting and thinking and solving the biggest problem of this universe. Okay? But to another person, it looks like he's not doing anything. He's closing his eyes and thinking, he's saying, oh, this guy's lazing around. But inside, he's doing the maximum work. And Krishna Bhagavan called it unactivity. Because he had reached himself to such a higher level, seemingly from the world, he's doing nothing, but he's doing the maximum amount of work. Usko unactivity bolte hain. You know? Because that explanation is there in chapter 4, I believe. Akarma or karma mode. And akarma mode is, it comes under unactivity. Basically, when somebody gets that highest knowledge, then whenever he's doing the work, he knows he's not doing it, it's the Prakriti which is doing it. The consciousness doesn't do anything. So then he remains relaxed. And that's why most of the Mahatmas, they can do the kind of work they achieve, we feel that we will not be able to do in 10 lifetimes. It's something like Shankaracharya ji. 32 years he lived and he wrote so many bhashya, so many things. And even Chinmayana ji, how many books they wrote and all that, And even in the worldly sphere, this sattvic unactivity has the highest value. Because it's like, hey, people say, no, we need equality, why a janitor is getting less paid and this guy is getting millions of dollars. But there's a reason why he's getting, because he's creating jobs for 2,000 other people, by his thinking. And also people don't take that into account. They quickly look at, no, you cannot be, because this guy is doing at a much higher level.
But tell me, if you're sitting and then quietly, not doing anything physically, but thinking and a new idea generates, can it be called as an activity?
Yes. If it is done, unactivity, Krishna Bhagavan has taken to, at the highest level, it becomes a karma mode. Okay, then the knowledge and all has to come. But even at a slightly lower level, if you are doing something good for the society and all that, it will come under that sattvic mode for sure. Yes.
So in that particular sattvic mode, anything which a wise person does, not physically at the highest level, is called an activity. Am I right in thinking?
Mm-hmm. And if you have Swamiji's book, which I think you do. Do you have this one?
Yeah. Yes.
So in that, I will send you the verse where he gave that whole explanation. What I gave is there, and you can read it yourself, and then we can discuss it again if you still have a doubt about it. Yeah.
Okay,
And he gave our teacher used to give a physical example also. When a fan is moving at a very, very high speed, it looks stationary as though it's not moving.
Correct.
That's unactivity.
Okay.
That it compared to that sattvic thing, person is doing a whole lot of work, but worldly looks like, if you just look at him, it looks like he's doing nothing. And it actually, I always give this example in my class because this actually happened to my cousin. So my cousin is a professor of finance, and he said that one day, he was sitting in his office. And he is a PhD and all in finance, so he does all the research and all that. So he said that his feet were on the table and he had gone like that, and he was thinking. It closed his eyes and he was thinking, and he's thinking, I was solving the biggest problem of some paper or some finance. And his teenage son walked into the office, and he's saying, Dad, you sleep at work or something? And he went and told his mom. Dad goes to work and does nothing. He just puts his head up. So that was unactivity actually. He was doing the highest amount of work, and he's saying, I had such a hard time explaining to him, hey, I was doing the highest work at that time. So this really was...
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I think Nanilji, you had some comment or question.
You already answered my question. Thank you.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I wanted to know the egoless, when you said that I didn't do a work, it's being done, is that not under inactivity?
No, it is still, but that is the highest state of inactivity I'm talking about, because when it comes to tamas, rajas and sattvic, we strive towards a sattvic life, right?
Right.
But somebody
Right.
may have not achieved it still the highest state. But when it
True.
comes to a karma mode, that person has achieved pretty high state, higher than even that, because now he has a knowledge that everything that happens in the world is happening in the prakriti. He separates that prakriti and consciousness, and he's saying he knows he's the consciousness. So that doership is gone.
Exactly.
That
That's what-
ahankar is gone. Yeah.
Once the doership is gone, you can still be working.
Oh, they work the most because they would do
Exactly.
lok kalyan ke liye karte hain na work.
Ji.
All these,
So-
even the current saints, the Sadguru, and they're always having this big project, save the
Gurudev
soil. Yeah.
Yeah, our Gurudev did. So-
Exactly. So they are not thinking of just myself. Hey, what am I going to do tomorrow? No. Hey, how I can help the whole globe?
that would still be that would be unactivity.
Unactivity,
It's not just like thinking, it's not just like thinking and not doing anything physically, but you could be physically doing also.
Oh, of course, 100%. Yes, you are absolutely right. So that example I gave of my cousin was that he was physically not doing, but somebody could be physically doing and still be in unactivity because they
Yes.
are in that akarma mode. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the scope is very big of this whole definition. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
I think also unactivity is in the mind of somebody else who's looking at that. Person who is doing that thinking or is involved in the sattva gunas and all that, he doesn't think of it as unactivity. It's the other people who look at it and think, hey, what's he doing? He's sitting doing nothing. And this comes in mostly in terms of the swamis. When they're meditating or they're thinking or something, people say, hey, what is he doing? He's not doing anything and he's just wasting time.
Right.
Where the activity word comes up. Is because how other people look at it.
Yeah, that's a good point too. But at the highest level, what Meenaji is saying, that's true, that the guy is knows he's doing a lot, but he's just saying, I'm the instrument of God. God, he thinks has a thankfulness in his heart that God made me. And as far as meditation, if somebody can truly meditate, that is the highest activity somebody can do, because our teacher used to say the people who meditate and all, even maybe sitting in a gufa in the Himalaya, they are the one holding this world together. बाकी लोग तो destroy करके चले सबको खत्म कर देते, but keep the balance, because the good vibration that they send, it keeps the sanity in this world, literally. And that's why.
Is active.
Sorry, go ahead.
Activity and unactivity never enters the mind of the person who is doing that meditation or who's thinking. It's the other people who look at it and say, hey, he's not doing anything. And they're saying you should understand that no, he's doing a lot.
Yes, exactly.
So.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right. Okay. Any other question, comment, any point?
Yeah, I had a comment on the karma and karma mode. Activity is not the issue. The issue is whatever you are doing, are you doing with your intention or it is happening because you have dedicated it to God?
Yeah, of course.
And so that's where the akarma and karma mode comes in. And one way to look at it is everything you do or not do has a consequence. But when you do in akarma mode, there is no consequence. So you're not adding another layer in your karma.
Right.
That is the difference.
Yeah.
So inactivity, activity is irrelevant. It's what the outcome of that is. And only when you are in akarma mode, there is no outcome.
Yeah, that's true. That's exactly right. And those are at the highest level. That's exactly right. That whole idea is that whatever impressions we have, dissolve them and not create any new. So when you work in a karma mode without ego, that's the only time you don't create any new karmas.
Right.
Yeah, you're just dissolving everything. So I think all of that we have actually done it in chapter 3, 4, and 5. But, you can see that how we kind of even forget, and, that's why it has to be done so many times. Then it sinks in little more every time. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to close Bhagavad Gita here. सर्वधर्मान् परित्यज्य मामेकं शरणं व्रज अहं त्वा सर्वपापेभ्यः मोक्षयिष्यामि मा शुचः हरिः ओम श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः हरिः ओम.